Hey guys, this is Nathan Pennington from RunDreamAchieve.com. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about how to run a marathon under 4 hours. Basically, how to run a marathon in 4 hours. What do you need to do to be able to sustain 9 minutes and 9 seconds per mile for 26.2 miles? This is a topic I go into very thorough and in-depth detail in the 4 hour marathon mastery course that I have on RunDreamAchieve.com. I know there's a lot of distance runners around the world that are trying to break that barrier, that are trying to get under, um, you know, being able to sustain 9:09 per mile pace for the entire duration of the race. And some of the key concepts and key strategies that I talk about in the course is that you got to get beyond um, just running high mileage. It's a lot of cases, a lot of distance runners think that if you run more mileage, you're going to run a faster marathon, which is not the case. To break a 4 hour marathon, you have to be thinking more so um, about leverage. Leverage is simply doing more with less. So, would you rather be doing 50 miles a week and running 3:59:59, or doing 120 miles a week so you can you know say that you're running that type of mileage, but miss your mark? So to break a 4 hour marathon, you have to get beyond the idea of quantity and just running high volume. There's a lot of athletes that really get zeroed in on that. They think that you know running more high mileage is going to get them that 3:59:59 time. Um, I know this is fact because this was a mindset that I had as well. When I broke the 2 hour and 20 minute marathon barrier, I got up to I basically experimented with higher mileage, and I got up to 142 miles a week, which was the highest week I ever did. I did a 140-mile week. I ran a slew of 130-mile weeks, and yet I never came close to improving on my PR 2:19:35 by running that type of mileage. I broke 2:20 running between 85 and 90 miles a week. So how to run a 4 hour marathon really comes down to focusing more so on more anaerobic types of training, um, really focusing more so on your anaerobic threshold, where this is basically where you're sustaining your heart rate is between 167 to 174 beats a minute, and that's kind of around the range of what your anaerobic threshold is. It's around 88 to 90% of your max heart rate. So to as an estimate, to find out what your max heart rate is, they say basically you take 220 and you deduct your age. So whatever your age is minus that age from 220, and that's your max heart rate. Um, but really, when it comes to breaking a 4 hour marathon, you got to be thinking about it's a combination of a lot of different things you got to do correctly. You got to train at or far below your goal marathon race pace. So we're thinking, what maybe you're at 4:30, maybe you're at 4:55, maybe you're at 4:03 or 4:02. You're closer to breaking 4 hours right now. There's only sometimes it's just a few minor tweaks that you gotta change in your training to get to a point where you can sustain that pace for 26.2 miles effectively. And training at your anaerobic threshold is very key. And getting to a point where you're spending more time during your long runs at a higher heart rate for a longer period of time is really one of the key strategies that you need to start implementing to get to that point where you move from like you're at 4 hours and 30 minutes right now, and you want to make that jump to 3:59. Maybe that's all you really need to do. You're spending too much time on your weekend runs running too slow. Maybe you've gotten very accustomed to doing long runs of like 16 to 24 miles in length, but the distance that you're running is too slow. I've been mentored by some of the world's top distance running coaches: Dr. Joe Vigil, Jack Hazen, Lisa Rainsberger. She was the last American female prior to Desiree Linden winning the Boston Marathon to win the Boston Marathon. She won it in 1985. And a lot of these coaches, that's what they state. They say you need to focus an extended amount of time spend at a higher anaerobic effort. So obviously, um, if you're running week after week, your long runs are basically just slow, and you're burning. And there's obviously a lot of positives that come from running slow distances. Obviously, slow long runs are still very, very important. So I'm not saying they're not. But what I would do in terms of getting you to a point where you're getting under that 4 hour barrier is having more of a focus on alternating your long runs each weekend. Alternate one long run, a harder long run, where you're spending more toward about 85% of your max heart rate, which is about 160. Usually, when I do my long runs, the my heart rate is around 160. And you may be new to heart rate monitor training as well, so there's going to be some changes here. So obviously, getting you to a point where you're going from say 445 to 359 or 410 to 359, you're going to have to make some drastic changes in your preparation and what you're doing. You may have never tried heart rate monitor training in the past. I highly encourage you to definitely consider that. These are some of the topics that like I said, some of the best coaches I've ever worked with and been fortunate to work with have kind of got me focused on implementing as well. And I've been using heart rate monitor training now since 1996, and it's very, very critical that you're training in that proper heart rate zone so you get the best return on investment in your training. And what's nice about heart rate monitor training is, instead of like if you go out for a planned 20-mile long run, you don't so much have to worry about focusing on, well, I have to hit this mile in this mile split. With a heart rate monitor training, a heart rate monitor, you focus more so on your heart rate. So okay, I need to focus on staying at 160. That's working at a higher, obviously at a higher effort, a little bit more aggressive effort compared to as if you were just going out for a long, relaxed long run. That's the key. You want to get to a point where you're clearing lactic acid faster than it's building up in your bloodstream. This is why the best distance runners in the world make it look so easy. It's because they've trained their bodies and at a point where they can clear that lactic acid and they can manage it better than other athletes that obviously have not done that specific type of training in their preparation. And again, it goes back to quality over quantity. You want to focus more so on that quality aspect of your preparation. You don't want to just be running junk miles every single day and not really challenging the anaerobic systems of your body. Obviously, getting to a point where you can sustain 9 minutes and 9 seconds per mile for 26.2 miles, you got to keep in mind to run a 3:59:59 or faster. That's just the average per mile pace you need to hold. So obviously you got to get to a point where you're getting on the track and you're doing repeat miles at say like between 7 minutes and 45 seconds to 8 minutes and 10 seconds per rep, and doing like 6 to 7 reps with like a 2-minute recovery in between each. So and the point of that is you're training at far faster than you're trying to race, than you're preparing yourself to race at. You want to get to a point where 9 minutes and 9 seconds feels easy and not stressed in it, and it doesn't fatigue you. And some of the ways to do that is getting out there on your long runs and getting to a point where you're, like I said, you're running at 160 heart rate. It's at a higher percentage of your max heart rate, and you're extending the amount of time that you're spending at that heart rate, and you're holding it, say like for 30 minutes or like for an hour and a half. You're going to cut drastic amounts of time off your marathon time if you continue to do that. And what I teach in the 4-hour marathon mastery course is where I talk about alternating, like I talked about briefly before, alternating one harder long run with an easier long run the following week. You got to keep in mind the most important benefits, and all the benefits that come from your training come within the rest. So it's not just the workouts that you're doing. It's training at a point where you're recovering enough on your recovery days, and you have that same mentality, that same discipline that you have to do the track workouts, to do the tempo runs, to get out there on your long runs and really hammer those those sections of your long run. It's to have that same mindset and that same discipline on your easy days when you need to take it easy, you need to be backing off your pace to get the most return on your investment on those recovery days. And it's also very important that you don't run too fast on your easy days, because when it comes time to for those track workouts, or those hill repetitions, those types of workouts where you're training more so at your aerobic capacity. Your aerobic capacity is more so um, at the higher limits of your oxygen capability. None of us can really train for that long of time at our aerobic capacity. It's basically sprinting. It's like doing it's where your heart rate is like at 175 beats a minute or above. It's like almost at your max heart rate. So you really can only spend anywhere from a few seconds to just a couple minutes really at training at that level. But that's the key. You want to get to a point where you're training far faster than 4 hour marathon pace. So you can get to a point where you're in the race and it actually feels 9 minutes and 9 seconds. You're clicking off 9:05s, 9 minutes, 8:48, 9:02s, mile splits, and it feels you're in control. You definitely don't want to get to a point where you're like 3 or 4 or 5 miles into the marathon, you're already feeling like you're fatigued. If you prepare properly in training and you start focusing more so on longer durations at a higher heart rate, you're teaching the body you're training at that anaerobic at a higher anaerobic effort. So sub 4 hour marathon pace is going to feel much more manageable. You're going to be much more confident. Um, you may not even experience the so-called wall in the race, and that's really that's one of the main focuses of that course that I've created. Is I don't want athletes to experience a wall. When I broke 2 hours and 20 minutes, that was the first time that I didn't experience a wall in a marathon. Actually, there was two times, and I ran the 2:19:35 at the 2007 California International Marathon, and a few years later at the 2011 Monumental Indianapolis Marathon, I ran 2 hours and 26 minutes and 42 seconds, finishing fifth. That was another case where I never really experienced a wall. Kind of ruined my finish time because I had to jump in a porta-john while running with the leaders. So that's another completely different area in terms of what bowel movements and things like that happens. All of us as athletes have had experience that sometime, either in training or in the race itself. But really, that's some of the key strategies that I want you to kind of just get your mindset and get your preparation, your goals focused on. And if for whatever reason you're having problems sustaining pace in the race, that is changing up how you're doing your long runs, extending the amount of time you're spending at a higher heart rate for a longer period of time during your long runs, alternating one weekend doing a more of a focused, harder long run, followed by an easy, relaxed, just get a time on your feet, an easy long run the following week, and allowing your body to have that that time for that adaptation, the physiological adaptations to actually occur, so you can get the best results when it comes to race day. Another key focus I want you to start really thinking about is your hydration practices. How to run a 4 hour marathon comes down to obviously a lot of different areas, like I mentioned before, but hydration is very, very key. Are you practicing taking in fluids during your long runs during the weekends? Are you sitting out those water bottles every 3 miles? Are you sitting a couple gel packets inside your shorts and ingesting those calories? A good estimate is maybe at like mile 7 and mile 16 if you were doing, say, like a 20-mile long run. Getting those calories in you, getting those fluids in you, and making any type of correction that you need to make in training first. So when you get to the race, you won't run into issues where you're falling, either falling apart. You got to keep in mind, a marathon is not, especially a sub 4 hour marathon, is not a 5K. It's not a 10K. it's a longer race, and it's also a race that requires more calories, and it requires a lot more out of our bodies. So that's what I want for you. I want to see you, regardless if maybe you're at 4 hours and 59 minutes and you got a sub 4 hour marathon in your mind, um, and you're just questioning like, am I really capable of doing that? The quick answer to that is absolutely. You are capable of doing it, but there's a lot of things that you have got to zero in on and become razor sharp focused on to make a sub 4 hour marathon a reality. There were definitely things I had to do in training to go from a 2 hour and 43 minute marathoner to a 2:19 marathoner, and it's the same thing. That our paces are different, but the hard work and the mentality and the mental training, the physical training, obviously, and all the little things that I mentioned, hydration, the specific types of anaerobic and aerobic capacity type workouts that I've mentioned, like doing repeat 200s, hill repetitions, just training at a point where your body cannot clear that lactic acid faster than it's building up. Obviously, we can't spend, like I said, we can't spend that long training at the aerobic capacity, but we can train at that level. It's just for a certain amount of seconds or minutes. And really, the key component to that type of training is to recruit those fast twitch muscle fibers. Um, the more fast twitch muscle fibers we can recruit, the more economical, the more efficient we're going to be when we get to the start line. And that's what you want to do. You want to be better prepared than your competition that's to your left and to your right. And also keep in mind too, to break a 4 hour marathon, challenge yourself in training. Get beyond, get very, very comfortable being uncomfortable in training first. Make your mistakes in training. Don't make them in the race. The race day, everybody around you is going to be stressed out and two tenths, and it's normal also to have to be a little bit nervous and stuff. But if you've trained yourself in training, you're going to be prepared for any moves your competition makes in the race. And I knew in Sacramento in 2007, when I towed that line, I had a PR of 2 hours and 40 minutes and 2 seconds for the marathon, but I had run 50:54 for 10 miles, and I'd run 1:07:06 for the half marathon. So even though my marathon time when I started wasn't remotely close to the guys that I was competing against, I knew I was able to make those changes when those top Kenyans I was running with, Laban Moibin, John Kathoga, there was a Canadian guy, a few Russian guys, and a few other Kenyans that I was running with. They were all making moves in the race, but I was able to react to all those changes, and a lot of times I was leading the race. But the reason why I was able to do that, even as a 2:40 marathoner, was because I had that leg speed, but also because I had done the types of workouts I'm guiding you toward doing in this video. I was doing those hard long runs at altitude. I was doing repeat miles way below. I was running repeat miles actually at altitude at between 448 and 446 per rep. So obviously I wasn't able to hold that type of pace for the marathon, but my goal was to break 2 hours and 22 minutes, which is 5:25 pace. But I was doing repeat miles at 4:45 pace, and I was able to make those types of big jumps like I did that day. So that's the case. That's the same type of training that works for all athletes. It doesn't matter if you're a 5 hour marathoner, 6 hour marathoner, or you're trying to break 3 hours. The training concepts are universal across the board. If you train at a higher anaerobic effort for longer periods of time, you're going to start getting results, and you're going to start teaching the body to clear lactic acid faster than it's building up. That's the reason why the top distance runners you see competing, or the top local runners in your area, they can sustain that pace for longer periods of time and make it look easy because they've trained at the proper anaerobic level. They've trained at a higher heart rate for a longer period of time. They've obviously focused on their hydration practices and training, nutrition. There's definitely, I want to also bring up in this video as well, I want to encourage you to check out the link in the description. There's could be some other information below. If you've never heard of glutathione, that's the body's master antioxidant. Every cell of the body produces it, but it has one of its biggest roles is that it detoxifies the body. It gets rid of the free radicals and heavy metals that occur from either from stress or from pollution or from the hard training that we put ourselves through. Um, Athletes that are fatigued, a lot of times, and people that are sick, oftentimes have very, very low levels of glutathione. And in my 28 years competing as an athlete, I've never run across one athlete that has ever even heard of it. And yet, most of the physicians that I work with, or nurses or physician assistants, have heard of it. The medical community knows about it, but athletes, marathoners, know nothing about it. So it's just a little hidden secret, little not so much a secret because you can look it up yourself. But definitely check out the link below. I've been using a product called Cellgevity since 2013. It's a company called Max International that basically manufactures it. And what I love about Max is all of their products are certified, banned, or drug-free by the banned substances group, basically. And it basically, all of their products are all drug-free, which I love about that. There's no reason to be out there competing at a high level and trying to use performance-enhancing drugs, because there's more to life than sports, to that point where you've got to use performance-enhancing drugs to get your results. If you can look yourself in the mirror and you did the very best you could, that's all that counts. And yet we have cheats that are out there on the roads and on the track. I've been beaten by them as well. That I simply, no matter what I did in training, I would never be able to beat because they're using that. So definitely research glutathione. On RunDreamAchieve.com, I've written numerous articles about glutathione, what it does, what its purpose is. So I'll leave a few of those links below too. You can check those out. But as a distance runner, that is a huge part. Nutrition is obviously a big part of becoming a sub 4 hour marathoner as well, because you've got to focus on a lot of different areas, especially if you're further away from breaking 4 hours. And even so, it's even critically important, even if you're at 4:01 or at 4:02 and you're just a couple minutes away from doing it. Like I said, you got to be doing a lot of different things correctly. But hopefully this video has been very helpful for you in terms of kind of giving you some insight from a 2:19 marathoner on what it is, what you need to be doing to sustain fast paces for longer periods of time. And if you haven't yet, definitely subscribe to the channel. Click the bell icon. That'll give you automatically. It'll give you an indication of when I create a new video. And definitely love hearing from my viewers. Just comments, and I always comment back, regardless what, if it's a specific question or something that's on your mind. Definitely leave a comment below this video. I'd be definitely happy to help you out in regards to that. So wherever you are in the world, I hope you have a great day, and I look forward to hearing about your sub 4 hour marathon.